Hi everyone, welcome to the Mathemagic channel. Today we look at how we can square any number that ends with a 5. This is one of my absolute favorite math tricks, and I hope that by the end of this video you can do it absolutely effortlessly. So if you're ready for this math trick, let's jump right in and do it. Let's go. So I'm super excited to share this trick with you, and so the first thing to think about is what kind of numbers are we talking about? We're talking about squares, and square numbers are numbers multiplied by themselves. As an example, 4 squared means 4 times 4, which is 16. And so here we're looking at squares of numbers that end with a 5, and so specifically numbers like 85 squared, or perhaps 45 squared, or even 25 squared. Now, looking at these numbers at first glance now, it's not easy to square them, but by the end of this video, you should be able to do it. And so to start today, I'd like to propose a short investigation. So we're going to put our little detective hat on and look at 3 specific numbers. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. You can just go and check that 15 times 15 is indeed 225. You're allowed to use your mind or a calculator. That 25 squared is 625, and that 35 squared is 1225. And so these are just here as a point of discussion so that you can better understand how the technique works. Now, if we accept that this is a fact, the first thing that we can notice about these numbers is that they all end with 25. So naturally, because 5 times 5 is 25, these numbers are going to have a 25 at the end, and that's pretty important in how we do the technique. So putting these numbers off to the side here, we notice that if they all end with 25, all we have to do is figure out how a 1 becomes a 2 becomes a 6, so these are the numbers in red, or a 3 becomes a 12. And so I'll give you a second to think about this here. Perhaps you can try and figure this out. And so it seems that we have 2 main techniques which we can look at. We can look at adding or multiplying. If we wanted to go from a 1 to a 2, we could do 1 plus 1 is 2, or we could do 1 times 2 is 2. From 2 to 6, we could do 2 plus 4 is 6, or 2 times 3, which is 6. And to go from 3 to 12, we could do 3 plus 9, or 3 times 4. And it seems like the multiplication is a more reasonable way to go than the addition. And so yes, multiplication is the way to go. If we have a number that starts with a 3, we'd like to do 3 times 4. So 4 is the next counting number. It's the number after 3. So you take the first digit and you multiply it by the next counting number. So if the number starts with a 7, you probably want to do 7 times 8 and stick a 25 at the end of it. And so 1 times 2 is 2, 2 times 3 is 6, and 3 times 4 is 12. So what's the trick? You take the tens digit, multiply it by the next counting number, and then you end the number with a 25. So once we've understood the trick, the best thing to do now is to just practice, and by the end of your practice you should know how to do these pretty fast. So assuming that you know your times tables, let's practice some numbers. So here's the technique at the top. You take the tens, multiply it by the next counting number, and then the number ends with a 25. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. So 15 squared. Okay, 1 times 2 is 2, and then we finish with a 25. That's 225. 25 squared. 2 times 3 is 6, and then we end with 25. 625. 35 squared. 3 times 4 is 12, and so we end with a 25. 1225. Okay, now into the numbers that we haven't looked at yet. 45 squared. 4 times 5 is 20, and then we finish with a 25. Very good. If you've got this one right, 2025, 2025. 55 squared. So 5 times 6 is 30, and so we end with 25, so 3025. Now let's look at the next one, 65 squared. Okay, 6 times 7, 6 times 7, that's a tough multiplication. Okay, 42, and then we finish with 25, 4,225. Let's look at this one, 75 squared. So 7 times 8, the next counting number. That's the hardest number in the times table. 7 times 8 is 56. 56, and then we finish with 25, 5,625. Okay, 85 squared. So 8 times 9. 8 times 9 is 72. 7,225. All right, how about 95 squared? Okay, pretty easy. 9 times 10 is 90, and then we end with a 25. And we can try 105 squared, so 10 times 11, which is 110, and then we finish with 25, 11025. And then for a super hard one here, 115 squared. Now, probably by the beginning of this video, if I asked you this question point blank, this would have been a really hard question. And it is, but with a bit of technique, we get there. So what's 11 times 12? Well, 11 times 12, if you know your times tables, that would be helpful. It's 132. There is a trick for 11s, and I would recommend that you go and watch the video that we put out for multiplication by 11s. And so 11 times 12 is 132, and we finish with 25. So 13,225. That's the end of the practice round. Well done if you've managed to do all these questions right. Here's a recap of all the questions we've done today, and you don't need to remember them, you just need to learn the trick, right? So there's no point or value in remembering any of these, but just for your own reference, 15 squared is 225 because 1 times 2 is 2, 25 squared is 625 because 2 times 3 is 6, 35 squared is 1225 because 3 times 4 is 12. So we take the first digit, multiply it by the next counting number, and whack a 25 at the end. And you can check all the other ones here, and if you ever need to practice or you'd like to remind yourselves of how this is done, then this is the place in the video that's going to show you how to do that. I hope you enjoyed this trick as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. Please remember to like and subscribe to the Mathemagic channel so we can put out more awesome math videos for you to practice your number theory tricks and get better at math at school. Or if you're grown up, you're an adult and you want to get better at math, or you just enjoy it in general, please support us with a like, a thumbs up, and a subscribe. We appreciate it. And see you on the next video. Remember, practice your math. See you next time. Bye-bye.